The following podcast is part of the MindBodySpirit.fm podcast network.
Adobe Acrobat, your new foundation. Use PDF spaces to generate a presentation. Grab your docs, your permits, your moves. AI levels up your pitch, gets it in a groove. Choose a template with your timeless cool. Come on now, let's flex those tools. Draft, design, deliver, make it sing. AI builds the deck so you can build that thing. Do that with Acrobat. Learn more at adobe.com/do-that-with-acrobat.
This is a Bose moment. You're 10 boring blocks from home until the beat drops in Bose clarity. And the bass line transforms boring into maybe the best part of your day. Your life deserves music. Your music deserves Bose. Find your perfect product at Bose.com.
Hi, I'm Lindsay, host of the Live Like Eden podcast. What do you do when your whole life flips upside down? Are you questioning everything, lost in chaos, or yearning for life's deeper meaning? I've been there, deep in the thick of it, unraveling my own awakening mess for over 20 years. Now I'm here to help you through yours. I share no-nonsense weekly wake-ups, cutting through the ego's illusions to wake you up to your own spiritual wisdom. No mountaintop bliss needed here, just practical tools, insights, and real-life experience to save you time. Plus, a much-needed laugh when we're all losing it. Let's dive into this fresh new episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. I'm Lindsay, your host, and today I am joined by Jamie Lerner. Jamie is a well-being coach and a therapist with a master's degree in social work from Loyola University. She spent many years in private practice doing psychotherapy until eventually she created an integrative approach to well-being that she practices to this day. She is the author of the book, The Ever-Loving Essence of You, which is all about recreating the greatest relationship, the one that you have with yourself. Jamie is here today to talk about how nightmares, those moments we think are going to ruin us, can actually be the catalyst to major change, to access the love and joy that is within all of us. I hope you enjoy the episode today. I will link everything about Jamie, her integrative sessions, the book, and her website in the show notes for you, and I will be back with you next week. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode. I am thrilled to be sitting here with lovely guest, Jamie Lerner. Jamie is a well-being therapist and author of The Ever-Loving Essence of You. Welcome to the show, Jamie. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I just have to start off with a little snafu that Jamie and I just ran into because she's here to talk today about how difficult moments in life or nightmares that we, think happen that we never think are going to mean anything. They're going to be the worst thing that ever happened to us, and how we can open the door and reframe it into something new. Well, I ran into some technical difficulties, right, Jamie? And she was so kind to be patient, and we figured out a new little thing on Zoom. So it's fitting that you're here to talk about this. But before we get into what you do, what you offer, and the techniques that you have to help people kind of reframe mental issues in our lives, I love to start everybody by sharing your own, story of your life, how you became a well-being therapist, what drew you to this role in life?
So I was born with a knowing, and I think we all are. And as we just live life, we get further and further away from our inner voice, our inner knowing. But I always stayed true to my voice. So I really felt that this was important to share with people, that we are our own greatest resource. And we don't hear that very often, but pretty much every step of my life, my inner voice, inner knowing has reassured me that that is the case. And actually, it's the case for everybody. So I went to school, I got my MSW, I became a psychotherapist, I had a practice, and I realized that what we were asking people to do to continually look back was not supporting them in any way regarding where they wanted to go moving forward. So I gave it up. I studied, I traveled, and now I do the integrative approach to well-being, where I assist people in assisting themselves from getting to where they are to where they want to be.
That's so interesting that you just said that, because I was going to ask you, one, as you were a psychotherapist, maybe first, can you just explain like the difference between psychotherapy, therapy, and psychiatry? Give us a little insight into the differences of those, and then I'll ask an additional thing about that.
Well, you must go to medical school to become a psychiatrist. And then you're able to diagnose, prescribe medication, and so on. And oftentimes, a good therapist, if they are going to prescribe medication, they refer to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist follows the client very closely. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen often enough. Medical school is not for me. I did get my master's in social work, and I really had some amazing internships with just amazing supervision, which led me to graduate and then to have a practice. And actually, my first job out of school, a company hired me and gave me like 10 files, 3 keys for different offices, and said, "We'll see you in a month." And I was like, "Oh, okay." It was unbelievable. But I ended up getting my own supervision. And after working there for a while, I got pregnant and I started my own practice out of my house. So we were doing psychotherapy, asking people to really look back at their childhood, at their parents, and what I realized is that the more people talked about it, the more stuck they became.
Mm-hmm.
And then that also became their excuse not to move forward.
Right.
So I did that for a while and knew intuitively that this was not for me. I was not assisting people in any way. So that's when I gave it up and really created something that I feel so strongly about. It is helping people help themselves and get back to their inner knowing, their inner being.
I
And
love that. Yeah, that's so
it's
beautiful.
amazing. It really is. And so self-empowering for the clients.
Yeah, and I love that you bring this up. It's something that I've wondered about myself, is how a lot of psychology and therapy, everything is about the past, everything is about your horrible childhood. And I'm sure people have horrible experiences, right? But I'm always thinking, like, does it do us any good to continue to relive it all the time? I mean, I get there's probably some circumstance where it's necessary to look at that, like, and really move on from it. But this constant, I don't know, like blaming the past for this is the way I am. My environment made me this way, therefore I'm a victim, and continue to live in that. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, because it's so interesting. For all of us, our superpowers have come from difficulties in our past. And if we want to look back at those difficulties and reframe them and have an understanding about what happened then from who and where we are now, I think it becomes a very powerful tool. However, people are not encouraged very often or guided to do that. What they're asked to do is really stay on that victim, what happened, woe is me topic, because it also gets people a lot of attention. We live in a victim society and we're rewarded for being the victim. So something happened when you're young, and before you know it, you're much older, and your story has just been so exaggerated by yourself because it gives you all this attention. However, every time you talk about it, and probably 50% of it is true, you feel bad about yourself. And I just don't think there's any value in that.
No, I agree with you. But the mind sort of loves this, right? Because you said right there, it gets attention, and you get attention from maybe people around you.
Yes.
Oh, well, he's had this, and therefore we're all catering to whatever the person's, been through. What is your approach to that? Like if somebody comes to you and they've been in this stuck story, and we could be talking decades, right? And they don't believe there's another way out. They don't believe it. I mean, I guess they're not going to talk to you if they don't believe it. But you know what I mean? Like, yeah, what's the way out?
First of all, I have very specific kinds of clients. I mean, you go to my website and you see immediately that you have to want to take personal responsibility for this process. I have very little to do with it. And there are a lot of people that's not for them. So, but when you do start working with me, I would ask people, to look at what happened to them back then from their right here now adult perspective. We're not small, we're not young, we're not helpless. So if we could see what happened then from the adult that we are, I think it really is helpful because it creates the more accurate picture of what's going on now.
Right. And you can't get back to the way you were before. I mean, you can't see it in that same way because it's not there anymore, you know? That's a good thing to do because how often do those people, when you do that, have a completely different perspective as an adult or as an older evolved?
Probably 80% of the time. And it's a big relief for them. I don't think they've ever been offered permission to kind of let that go and to really create a new storyline from their right here and now adult place of being.
Yeah.
So it's very powerful, I have to say.
It is. And do you find in your field that there are more and more therapists leaving that old traditional way and branching out into like really moving forward in the way that you are in this integrative approach?
I find that I keep my focus very narrow and I don't look outside of what I'm doing to others to see what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that really helps me in many ways, help my clients help themselves.
Yeah.
Because in some ways, the biggest criticism I get is this is not a good business model. And my response is, I'm in the business of wellness. So my most successful clients are the clients I have for the least amount of time.
Wow, that's so honest.
Well, it's so true.
It's
And
true.
to think that people feel self-empowered. I mean, that people begin to trust themselves. They begin to know themselves. They begin to consult themselves. I mean, that's everything.
That's the goal, right? Don't you want to work with people who eventually can totally trust themselves? You help them with the tools and finding, but then you don't need them. They don't need you forever.
So everyone has a different framework for their practice. And I believe that there are clients for every therapist. And I also believe in law of attraction, that the people that are looking for something like this will find it.
And so there you get your people.
Yes. And there you get your people.
Well, and I'm sure you only want to work with people who want to help themselves. I mean,
no, I only work with people who want to help themselves. That is my clientele.
As opposed to, I mean, there's plenty of people who go to therapy for years and years and years talking about the same stuff and nothing ever moves.
But this is the thing. I highly respect a client that would say to me, you know, I am comfortable where I am, not making any traction, not having any results. It feels good to me to go and to repeat my story over and over and over again. And I would say, well, I applaud you. I mean, that's amazing. You are taking personal responsibility for this experience. However, I can't help you with that, but I think that that's amazing.
Yeah.
I respect you for that.
Yeah.
And goodbye.
It's just not what I'm doing. Right. So what are some ways, Jamie, that, you know, maybe in your own life or maybe just clients that you have, what have you seen in people? Like, what are they coming for? What's the biggest difficulty that most of us have? Like, especially when we're talking about real challenging moments in life. What do you see?
I see that there is a lot of mind chatter that they haven't isolated. And I see most people are stuck, but they're stuck just in a moment. It's not your whole life. And somehow we believe that the moment is our whole life. And then we create a lot of unnecessary anxiety for ourselves. So I like the example of getting your car stuck in the mud and then you keep pressing the gas pedal and you just get further and further dug in. But if you would just turn the steering wheel like one little bit in another direction and slowly press on the gas pedal, you would make momentum and get out of being stuck. I mean, it's such a subtle and easy process. So that's what I think. I think people really dig themselves in unnecessarily.
So what questions can you think of that like introspectively, like anybody listening who's just sitting there and you're doing that and you're just going over the same thing in your mind? What's a good question for somebody to ask themselves to spark a new pathway?
So, and I go there at times to myself. And what I ask myself is, how is this serving me in my now?
Mm.
Because it's an important question, even if you don't have the answer. There's a moment where you really can interrupt the thought pattern if you can stay with that thought.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of the time it's not serving us. And there are times where I say, this is absolutely not serving me. And I'm good with it. And I just need to spin out of control. Great.
Yeah.
Then you're creating a conscious awareness around where you are. And I think that's good permission to give yourself.
Yeah, the awareness is there. Yeah. Which is always the first step, it seems, when anybody's taking responsibility, is having awareness that you're doing it in the first place.
But not to blame yourself. So we call this like creating some loving curiosity about yourself. And oftentimes we get to that place because it's familiar.
Mm-hmm.
We're so used to going to that place where we're spinning out of control that something about it is almost comforting because it's familiar. But how is it serving us?
Yeah. So how do you bridge that into, I know you like this concept of the art of allowing. So you're allowing anything that happens in your life. It seems that these two can work together where, you realize all these, what I labeled, right, as horrible things in my life. And then how do you're reframing it to mean something new in the present moment, it seems. And then it's like a bridge into moving forward, that now you're prepared for whatever comes to you and you can handle it in a different way. So how do you do that art of allowing with your clients or people you work with?
I kind of feel like art of allowing happens so much later than reframing, because the only way that you can be so allowing with everything else that's going on that has absolutely nothing to do with you and is none of your business is to feel so clear about where you are with yourself. So it is an art and it is a practice and it is definitely doable. But I feel like it's really way down the road.
Yeah.
You can't allow other people to be where and who they are if we are not allowing ourselves to be who and where we are.
And that seems like it's a process, It's like all the conditioning and all the layers that we've placed upon ourselves, or the conditioning of our own mind or the world around us. It's like you're having to peel back all of those layers, test them, right? Are they true or not? And like you said, until you get into it seems more like a fluid dance with life. But there's a lot of work up until that point.
Well, it doesn't have to feel like work because there's a lot of levity. There's a lot of laughter I do with my clients because once they can isolate the mind chatter, they realize that they would never speak to another person the way they speak to themselves. I mean, it's ridiculous. And like 90% of it is not even true.
Yeah.
So I think that we can approach this whole conversation in such a light and bright way that it doesn't have to be hard. And it doesn't have to be something that we feel bad about.
Well, I love that you say that because I'm a big lover of laughter, and in my own personal life have looked back and really laughed at myself for how seriously I'm taking something, and it's so light when you learn to look at it, and it wasn't that big of a deal. And here I was making it a huge production. And then there's a joy. There's almost this just comedy in all of it.
There is a lot of comedy, and I am laughing at myself and with myself all day long when I catch myself. And it is helpful. It really is helpful.
Yeah. And I think in a spiritual sense, like, isn't that the point? This light, loving joy that we're supposed to be living, but we go the other way. It's got to be hard. It's got to be hard work. It's simple, yet we make it complicated.
We always make it complicated, but I don't think we're given permission to not take it seriously. And so when I give clients permission to reevaluate in a way that is lovingly curious, I think that they take a breath. It's almost like, wow, this doesn't have to feel so heavy.
Right.
And it doesn't. So
no, it doesn't. And having someone like you there as sort of this grounding force is probably, so supportive for them to realize that.
Well, what it is supportive for them to do is to trust that in this moment, they can look inward,
Mm-hmm.
like they're fine. So if I'm a safety net for them to do some self-reflection in a loving way, great.
Yeah. It's so funny, Jamie. I have a daughter in college and she calls me yesterday and she's, going off on a tangent about, I don't know what I'm doing with myself and I don't find a job when I get out. I'm going to be homeless. I mean, she's spinning in circles. So I said to her, why don't you just take 5 to 10 minutes, disconnect from everything, sit or walk around campus without, just observe, don't think, just clear yourself and relax in the moment because you're running a story that isn't even happening. And she says to me, I don't have 10 minutes. I got to study. What do you say to somebody like that? Because she's not the only one. We all do it with the
Well,
time thing. There's a time.
that's a choice, though. I mean, I think the other thing is people don't feel like they have a choice,
Mm-hmm.
but to not make a choice is also a choice. It's really asking people to take a moment and pause and make a choice that feels better. Sometimes going off and is a choice, and you can make the conscious choice. Like, I know I'm allowing myself to spin out of control and I can't stop it. And okay, that's a
Yeah.
choice, though. That is the choice we need to take personal responsibility for.
Yeah. So in your previous life, let's say this, in your previous life with psychotherapy, did you have more people that didn't want to take responsibility? What's when you made the shift to say, I'm working with people, like you're putting it out there, I want to work with people who are ready to integrate and take responsibility. Was that happening in your prior practice? I'm just curious, like what the shift was for you. Something must have occurred in
Well,
you.
I don't even think people know that's an option.
Mm,
Like you have to introduce the option of taking personal responsibility, which actually is our superpower. I mean, it feels so good to know that you are only responsible for yourself.
yeah.
Like I am only responsible for what I put out there, but I'm not responsible for how it's received, which makes me very responsible for what I put out there because
Mm,
I have to own that. I have
yeah.
no control how it's going to be received by anybody. So if we only have control over how we feel or how we're choosing to feel, and then we
It
have a
makes
lot of
it easier.
self-power.
Yeah, I know. It
It,
lightens the load, right?
it totally does.
Yeah,
But people would rather control other people. They would rather tell other people what they should be doing. And those are the people that have no clue what they're doing with themselves.
oh, and what is it about people that they care about what other people think about them, like really care, and they're running their whole life to please everyone around them, their families, what the
It is the
expectation.
avoidance of addressing yourself. But unconscious, people don't really know that that's what they're doing. So
Yeah,
that when you shed some light on that, you give them a choice. Like you have a choice now. Instead of looking outside of yourself and judging everyone around you, take a few minutes, quiet the mind chatter, and look within and see if you can hear your own inner being, your own inner guidance.
yeah. Well, it's interesting because, when people focus on the external, like you said, it's a purposeful block by the conditioned mind. So you don't ever discover anything more.
No, you
It-
don't. It's a
yeah.
great avoidance technique, but it's not conscious.
Mhm.
So when you help people understand that, this is kind of a unconscious way of avoiding addressing yourself, then I think they can begin to understand it. It's still scary for them.
Yeah. When you're not comfortable in something and the unknown comes in, there's the fear that comes in for all of us, right? There's a little bit of fear that eventually will go away, like you said, way down the line with the art of allowing.
Well, it kind of will go away once you hear your inner knowing, because a lot of what you think you're hearing are just old tapes from what you heard from
Yeah.
other people that were important to you. And once you're able to kind of like quiet that and start hearing your own inner guidance, your own inner being will never judge you.
Yeah.
It will never cast an unkind eye towards you. I mean, this is the real unconditional love. And when you get back to yourself, it's like coming home. And
Mhm.
that's all you hear. And that's what you're guided to. And your greatest, best self comes from your own inner knowing. Until people can hear it, they don't believe it. But once they start hearing it, they can't hear anything else. And that is the goal. You know better for you. Well, how would anyone know better for you than you? How? This is possible.
I know. But it's funny how the arrogance of the mind steps in and everybody thinks they know what everyone else should be doing. That's my favorite one. When somebody thinks that, especially parents with children, but they think they know the kids should be doing this. You need to do this. That's not going to work. You don't make enough money doing that.
A lot of that comes from their own fears about the mistakes that they thought they made with themselves.
Oh, yeah.
That they projected onto their children. Instead of telling their children or asking their children, well, what do you think I should do? When my kids would ask me what should I do, I would say, well, what do you think you should do?
Yeah.
I don't know what you should do. But you know what you should do. You know you for yourself. And I think that is the greatest gift any parent could give their child at any age. But they have to have trusted or begin to trust themselves before they can kind of bestow that notion on their children. And it just doesn't happen.
Mm-mm.
They skip over that.
Well, do your kids, thank you for that. I'm assuming you raised them that way.
I think it's been really hard in some ways for them that they were always expected to take personal responsibility. I think that's been really hard for them. And now as adults, I think they really are understanding and appreciating it.
Yeah.
So, but it was a very different message than what a lot of their peers got. So
in that sense, they probably felt a little different than the rest of them, huh?
They kind of felt like I never allowed them to be a victim.
Mm-hmm.
And where all the other kids got to be victims.
You just gave them gold.
Well, I mean, I just, so yeah.
I share that with you. I share that big time with you too. I wasn't necessarily a coddler. I mean, unconditional love doesn't always look like, oh, poor you. I never allowed them to feel that way. And I think I probably made some mistakes. So what I tell them is, please do it differently with your own children. Now you have the opportunity, which I believe, do it better than the way you saw it. Yeah. What do you think about?
This episode is brought to you by Nordstrom. Spring calls for a wardrobe refresh, and Nordstrom has the best styles of the season. From dresses and denim to standout tops and accessories, find the trends and essentials that feel right for you. Discover new arrivals from brands you love like Wave, Princess Polly, Mango, Adidas, and Free People. Plus, free shipping and returns and free styling appointments make everything so easy. Shop in stores at Nordstrom.com or download the Nordstrom app.
We all have that dream trip we've been wishing we could go on, but too often life, or usually price, gets in the way. That's why Priceline is here to help you turn your dream trip into reality. With up to 60% off hotels and up to 50% off flights, you can book everything you need for your next adventure. Don't just dream about that next trip. Book it with Priceline. Download the Priceline app or visit Priceline.com and book your next trip today.
Go to your happy price, Priceline.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
We all have problems with other people in our life. At some point there's a conflict with someone. And I always find this so interesting. You'll hear somebody telling you something like, well, I'm having this problem with Joe Schmo, whatever. And I say, well, have you communicated that to them? Well, no. So I'm always like, what is the communication gap that so many of us have? It's like we don't know how to even communicate with other people about how we're feeling about a situation. We just kind of assume they know, they should know, or they know what I'm thinking. Like, do you run across this?
Yes. And I have to tell you, it's never about the other. So every single person that you interact with is an opportunity for you to reflect something back to yourself about yourself. 99% of the time we're communicating with people just projecting.
Mm-hmm.
So once you can get past that and understand that if you're having a problem with someone else, you're actually having this problem with yourself. It has nothing to do with the other person. And it's almost like, thank you so much, other person, for showing me that I am having a problem with myself.
Yeah. Gosh, if only everybody saw it that way, we would, you'd probably have more marriages that stay married, more would love to blame the other person for our problem all the time. And that goes for anything, right?
Yes, but as soon as you kind of understand this, you almost are looking forward to meeting people that you're having a problem with, because it gives you a wonderful opportunity to learn something about yourself. So the thing I always say is, I am so happy to be wrong. I'm so excited when I'm wrong because I learned something about myself.
Mm-hmm. Because you're in that space, you're introspective. I want to learn. I want to, move past something or grow from something. But when you're living in the mindset that everything is happening to me or this person is the problem and they're never willing to admit they're the problem, then you're just kind of stuck. You're just going to loop in that pattern for a really long time. Well, I can see why you created a new way to use your therapy. So what was that like for you to make that switch, to get out of, going into the past, or even people that go into reincarnation all the time, which, I mean, it can be fun and insightful, but like you said, we're here now. We're working on what's right in front of us. So what was that like for you when you made that change?
I think the thing I was the hardest on myself about is that I knew for so long it wasn't working. But I felt like there's never going to be a good time for this. And I put it off too long. And finally, when I decided I cannot do this anymore. But the other thing about psychotherapy, it's really fascinating because I understand so much about how people who have had difficult things happen to them in the past, they don't want to let it go. It's almost like it's so familiar, even though it's so painful, but they feel it's almost like they're a bond to the person. And if they let it go or even reframe it, then they don't have that connection anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I get it. And then it's also important to know that there's another option.
Yes, there's always another way. Always. Like you said earlier, respecting people for where they are with their own decisions is really important. And I'm sure you're being brought people who are ready, ready to make that new way for themselves.
I don't know if we're ever ready, but I think there comes a moment where you see this opening of light. That's a possibility.
Yeah, and that's all it takes.
That's all.
Just a tiny spark.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's talk about your book for a second. So you're an author of The Ever-Loving Essence of You. It's a beautiful title. And can you just share with the listeners what your book is about? And then I'll ask you a couple things in there that I think are interesting that you bring up.
So I'm the co-author because I wrote this with my friend, Lauren Park. So this book is, it's about connecting and reconnecting with yourself in a very loving way. And it's a very simple book to read because there's no psychobabble or jargon in there. You can open it up at any page. And it's a very kind and loving book that I think we wrote this like almost 15 years ago. And I read it every month. It's pretty timeless. I think the connection with ourselves is the most important connection that we will ever have. And without that, it's impossible to go on and connect with other people.
Mm-hmm. That's so true.
It is the foundation.
Mm-hmm. Because then how do you develop any meaningful connection with anybody else? I mean, I guess you could temporarily, but it seems like if there's nothing solid in the interior, the foundation, like you said, that something might be missing.
Well, I think there's so many people who are so successful. They have so much money. They have a family. They have everything they want. And they feel something's missing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the connection that you are not having with yourself that's missing. So that's what the book is about. And we wrote this book because I did not have a connection with my mom ever, emotional. And but I had a connection to myself. And my parents were great. I mean, I grew up in the 70s. My parents didn't give me anything to push against. I mean, I was wild and free, and they were great. So I really appreciate that I chose those parents. I think that we do choose our parents from the heavens above. But it took me a very long time to understand why I did not have a connection with my mom. And it's because she didn't have a connection with herself.
Mm.
But the last few days of her life, I sat with her and felt all of that pouring through her to me, and, had this thought that, okay, maybe this is the beginning of our mother and daughter relationship. And then she transitioned.
Oh, wow.
So it was just really important to write this book with Lauren, my friend who knew my mother and myself for a very long time, and to just allow people to think about how important this connection is and how easy it is to get back to it.
So that moment with your mother before she passed, that must have been very impactful for you.
It was very impactful. Yes.
Was that before or after you wrote the book? Or
No. So after she transitioned, Lauren and I sat down, we wrote it in a weekend. I mean, it just poured through me, and yeah.
So that was sort of a catalyst for the book and then everything else. Wow.
And a tribute to my mom and for thanking her.
That's a beautiful way to look at that. Did you know as a child that you were disconnected emotionally from her? Like, when you're kids, sometimes it's just what you know. So I'm just curious when that sparked in you.
I think I knew it from like the moment I was born. Like I really knew it and felt it. But now it's my superpower. I mean, I believe that, my whole relationship with my mother has given me such an amazing gift because I remained eternally connected to myself. I mean, I'm so connected to myself that I cannot be influenced by anyone else unless it feels right to me. So it's, I just trust myself 100% about everything. Yeah.
That's amazing. So many people need to read your book.
Well, they don't need to read it, but it's available if they're interested. It's nobody needs to read it. See,
well, I'm coming at it because so many people, I think they feel that missing. They feel like something's missing, but they don't realize it's already there.
It is already there 100%. It does not take much at all to get back to that place where you're connected to yourself. It really doesn't.
So what are some simple things that you recommend for people? Somebody who says, I don't know how to get in touch with what you're talking about. What do you recommend? Simple things that you can apply to life.
Just sit with yourself first thing in the morning for even 5 minutes and ask yourself, what do you appreciate about you? Not what other people appreciate about you, but what do you appreciate about you? It sounds simple, and it could be simple, but I think that sets the tone for the whole day.
Mm-hmm.
You're consulting yourself about yourself.
Well, and so many people don't do that. There's no inner discussion,
Well, they don't even know that that's an option.
Right.
So when you get an invitation to do something like that or homework and you start to do it, I think you hear something very different.
Mm-hmm. Does this go along with the concept in your book of pre-paving? Is that what you're saying? Or is that slightly different?
But it could be pre-paving because the moment that you set the tone for the day, that's about something important about you, that you are feeling about you. I think pre-paving, you are really able to take yourself through your whole day and it will unfold that way.
Mm-hmm. So pre-paving, is there other ways to do that? Or are you suggesting that that's just something you do immediately in the morning?
No, I think the first thing you do in the morning is connect with yourself on any level that you can, even if it's for 5 minutes.
Yeah. What do you think about getting in touch in distracted moments? Like you're out in the middle of the world and you're distracted by everything. What are simple cues to pull you back to yourself when you're being highly influenced in the moment, right? In a chaotic situation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I have a little mantra for myself, and I say to myself, be here now.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very helpful for me to bring me back to where I am right this moment with myself, not with other people.
Mm-hmm. Well, that opens the door into a broader awareness field that you're able to observe rather than attach. You're just simply watching, which is why I was telling my daughter, if you just stop and watch without the commentary, and even if thoughts come in, whatever, that's just thought. But what's behind the thought? What is the essence of you? Because so many of us get wrapped up in we're the mind. You think they're the mind, but if I can watch the mind, there's something deeper there, and that's, I think, also something to help people is realizing that there's more than the mind. The mind is just the apparatus, but there's something so much more powerful and beautiful beneath it.
And it's really up to us
Mm-hmm.
how we want to use the mind. I mean, we we have a lot of power over that I don't think people understand.
Oh,
So,
it is so powerful. I
yes.
mean, Jamie, I find myself getting in these serial killer shows and I'm like, wow, look at the mind there. I mean, look at the extremes that the mind is capable of. And like you said, it's a choice, right? You're
It's
just
a
making a
total
choice.
choice. And so is excusing yourself when you're in a situation you're uncomfortable with. You can graciously just excuse yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And to excuse ourselves without judgment feels so much better than to excuse ourselves and then, make everybody wrong for what they're doing that we're not comfortable with.
Yes. Oh, now that you said that, maybe you can offer some tips on let's say this, you get invited to the party you don't want to go to, or the event that you have no interest, but everybody's going and they're kind of, pushing you to go. And there's this expectation that you should be there, but you don't want to go. So how could you phrase this to other people so that you can excuse yourself without feeling like you have to be there or guilty about it, like you said, or worried about it?
I think that there is a gracious way to get out of something. And I think people really appreciate you not being somewhere you don't want to be because you will be giving off the energy that you don't want to be there. And that doesn't feel good for you or the other people around you. But, I think to say thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate the invitation. And let me get back to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then give yourself some time to really think about it and see if you can get into alignment with it. I don't do anything that I don't feel good about doing. And I give myself time to get into alignment with whatever that's going to be before I make my final choice. And it could be every moment I feel differently about it. But until my thoughts and feelings are kind of one, it doesn't feel good to go or not to go. It's kind of like you're in limbo. You don't know what to do. When you're in alignment, it just feels like a natural extension of who you are.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly what you're talking about today is when you know who you are, when you get in touch with who you are, you're comfortable making any decision because you're not worried about it.
And there's no judgment involved. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't care what other people are doing. Not that you don't care, but whatever they choose, you feel so good about it that they've made their choice for themselves.
Yeah. And they're free to think whatever they want. I mean, they are. And it doesn't have to affect you.
Well, it won't affect you.
Yeah.
It won't. Not because you're aloof, but because you're so clear about what you're doing for yourself. What they're doing is none of your business.
That's so true. So after you spend time, reframing these things in your life and you've done it for long enough, now it's normal, right? Because there's a kind of a limbo period, right? If you're working through something difficult and the mind wants to always go back to the old patterning, it takes time for that reframing to set in as your new normal. What is it then, now that we've gone kind of through this a little bit, what is your day like, Jamie, with the art of allowing in your life? I know you said this is further along, but explain in your words what that feels like to you.
It's wonderful and it's freeing and you're just in such a good place that, you just feel so good about everybody else, no matter what they're doing. And it's almost like it's such a nice way to move about the world. And vibrationally, you're very high and you could just sit next to somebody, not say a word to them, but your ability to just feel comfortable in your own skin is such a nice experience for other people.
Mm-hmm.
The people are disarmed. They're at ease. They don't feel any judgment. They don't feel anything except just ease within themselves. It's such a gift you give to other people. Just your presence.
Yeah. Letting people be.
You just let them be where and who they are. It's great.
For people listening who aren't watching it on video, Jamie has a very calm presence about her. So I can see why people would really feel comfortable to share with you, because I can automatically tell you're just going to be there. You're not going to be judging them. which is so important when you're offering services like you do, you know?
Well, and it doesn't feel good when we judge. It feels, I mean, it really doesn't feel good. So,
Why feel bad when you can feel good? You know?
well, and there's some people that don't want to feel good, and that's okay. Everybody does not want to have a life that feels good. Most people don't even know what that would mean.
Right. That's true. Well, like you said, you get so familiar and comfortable in the way that you are that just to fathom anything outside of it, even if you're miserable, it's just too much. It's just, I can't. I'm too comfortable here.
And misery loves company.
Oh, doesn't it?
Yes. So you have a bigger audience.
You do. And then it's an attention seeking thing too, big time sometimes.
But just like not conscious.
No, definitely not. But it's definitely like they're gaining, the subconscious is definitely getting something out of that for it to keep doing it. Even though, like you said, they're not aware of it on the surface.
No.
Wow.
But you really could for yourself flip the script no matter where you are, no matter what is happening. I mean, you know, I am an eternal optimist. I can turn any nightmare into something positive. And my children are just annoyed completely by me.
Do your children ever say things to you like this? Why can't I just feel how I feel? Why do you always have to try to offer a new way? Like I do this with my kids. If I see they're struggling and I say, I understand that you feel it that way, but have you tried this on? But they almost don't want to hear that. They want me to reassure their depression is valid, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Have you experienced that with other people?
Well, I think that when you ask them what they think about it, it's helpful.
Yeah.
For your children, for anyone, you know, they tell you whatever, and then you just say, well, what do you think about it?
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, to ask them to reflect back to themselves.
Yeah. And then keep the doorway there. So the introspection is there. Yeah. That's great advice for anybody listening too, if you're doing that.
But it's hard because we don't want to see our children struggling. We want to rescue them.
Mm-hmm.
But when we do that, we give them the sense that they can't trust themselves.
Right.
So in many ways, it's undermining them.
Yeah. And then you spend a lifetime seeking outside of yourself. And like you said, just constantly depressed or miserable or wondering, like we said, that missing piece, like, where is it? You know, because it's not out there.
No, it's within. It's an inside job,
Yeah.
which is a wonderful thing. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah. And it's simple. And once you establish a connection to it, it's freeing, it's liberating, and it doesn't cost you anything. I mean, it's not, you know, nobody's selling you a program or, you know.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And you become very discerning for yourself, which is nice.
Yeah. You have this interesting feature I was looking at on your website, this quickie text. It
is my favorite service.
Will you explain
I love
that?
the quickie. I love it. And I really rolled it out before COVID. So it was brilliant because during COVID, people were living, you know, with each other and back home, and there wasn't a lot of privacy. But the reason I like it is because if, let's just say for your daughter, people can't go on and on and on like that in a text.
Mm-mm. No.
Well, no, they can't. And that's why I like it. They tend to have to kind of consolidate whatever it is that's going on, be a little bit more concise in a text. And it sidesteps some of the emotion, which I think is so helpful because I think emotional intelligence is important.
Yeah.
We get so caught up in the drama and the emotion of a situation that it just doesn't serve us in any way. And it kind of takes on a life of its own.
Oh, yeah.
That cannot happen with texting.
Yeah. No, you're right. Because you can't, you're trying to interpret the emotion. You don't know what it is. You know?
Well, and also when you're trying to express it, I mean, you know, it's a text, which is very helpful because someone texts me, I text them back, whatever, and then they can go back and read what they texted to me and just the whole transcript and understand that they knew for themselves all along. And I was just kind of the conduit.
So is that like a service that you offer with your clients, or is it anybody? Like, how do you do this?
Well, you know, you just buy some quickie texting time and you text me and I text you back. And then
a problem that you're having immediately, you can just text, reframe it. Anything. Oh, that's cool. So how do your clients respond? How do they
I
like
think
it?
they really like it. I think
Yeah.
they like it because, people are busy. Sometimes they're in between airports, in between meetings. It's kind of in the moment. You don't make an appointment. I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
you have to wait a few hours, but I'm usually pretty good about getting back to people quickly. And I don't know. It seems so practical.
Well, isn't that the point, right? It's how do we do this in life and having these practical tools.
Yeah.
Since the phone is what we're doing today, it's a
Yeah.
great tool to put on. Yeah. What a
And
great
the
thing.
other things, it holds people accountable for what they texted. When people talk, they are only able to express in that moment. And when that moment is over, they can't even go back and take responsibility for what they said.
Yeah. That's a great thing that then they can review it and you can see the
Yes.
conversation too.
Yes. But
Yeah.
mostly it's for them because really they find they knew all along for themselves.
Yeah, that's funny. It's almost like we all have a little bit of self-doubt, and when somebody else points it out, then it's like, oh, yeah, I remember that. And what you're trying to do is get people to realize you already know the answer,
Yes.
already in you.
Yes. Yes. You are your own greatest resource. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I love your message, and maybe this is a good place to wrap up the show. But before we do that, is there anything you'd like to leave the listeners with today? Any last insight, or maybe anybody struggling? Just some words from Jamie, some encouragement.
Know yourself, love yourself, trust yourself. And it's just a little moment. It's not your whole life. And then you're on to the next moment.
It's like life is just a series of moments, one moment.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Jamie. I will make sure to link everything that you offer in the show notes for the listeners. And please come back and have a chat with me anytime.
Thank you for inviting me.
That's it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. If it resonated, please share, follow, and drop a review with your takeaways. It really means a lot. Visit my website at livelikeeden.com to subscribe for weekly reminders and blogs, or sign up for a free 30-minute consult to explore one-on-one guidance sessions if you're really struggling in Awakening's darkness. Take my Awakening quiz to get a personal podcast playlist that meets you exactly where you're at. See you next week for another deep dive.